Welcome to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, a podcast for people who are ready to clear the physical, the mental, and the emotional clutter that's been weighing them down. I'm Melanie Cohen, your host, coach, and guide. Each week, we talk about the clutter you can see and the clutter you can't. The stuff in your home, the noise in your head, the expectations, habits, and unmade decisions that quietly drain your energy. This isn't about perfection or minimalism. It's about creating space for what actually matters in this season of your life. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Hello and welcome back to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free. I'm Melanie Cohen, and I am so happy you're here. I want to start today's episode with a question. What if the thing weighing you down wasn't your closet? What if it's everything that you're carrying? Because here's what I know after more than 20 years of coaching women through lasting change. Very few people come to me because they simply have too much stuff. They come because they feel overwhelmed. They feel like they're constantly behind. They feel like they're taking care of everyone else while the things that matter to them just keep pushed back until tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow. They tell me they don't know where to start. They've tried to get organized before. They've bought the containers, they watched the TV shows, they read the books, they spent entire weekends decluttering. And yet, somehow, 6 months later, they're back to where they started. Does this sound familiar? If so, I want you to know something. This is not a character flaw. You are not lazy, you are not broken, and you are definitely not failing. Contrary to what social media would have you to believe, you don't have to get up at 5 a.m. every day, label every bin in your pantry, and color code your closet to have a peaceful life. The problem isn't that you don't know how to organize. The problem is that you've been trying to solve an internal problem with an external solution. I've spent over 2 decades coaching thousands of women in the health and wellness space. On the surface, we were talking about food and weight and exercise, sometimes sleep. But what we were really talking about was life in general, stress and perfectionism and people-pleasing and feeling like everyone else came first, feeling guilty for taking time for yourself. And over and over again, I realized that these same patterns showed up in every other aspect of our lives, including clutter. Not just the clutter in our homes, the clutter in our minds, the clutter in our calendars, the clutter in our inboxes, the emotional clutter that we carry around with us every day. Because clutter isn't a pile on the kitchen counter. It's every unfinished decision, every obligation that you've outgrown but haven't let go of. It's every, I'll deal with it later, every open loop quietly asking for your attention. And eventually, these loops, they become exhausting. You know, I often say that clutter is anything that gets between you and the life you want to be living. Sometimes that's a closet. Sometimes it's 42,000 unread emails. Sometimes it's saying yes when you desperately wanted to say no. Sometimes it's holding on to guilt that was never yours to carry in the first place. This is why I created the Lighten Up Clutter-Free Mindset Method. Not because the world needed another organizing course, because it didn't. The world certainly didn't need another person telling women that they needed to try harder. What I wanted to create was something different. A place where women could finally stop trying to fix the symptoms and begin addressing the reason they feel so weighed down. Because this is what I've learned. You can organize a closet, but the perfectionism is still running the show. The closet fills back up. You can clean out your inbox, but if you continue saying yes to everything, the inbox is going to fill back up. You can clear off the kitchen counter, but if you're still trying to carry everyone else's responsibilities, the counter's going to fill back up. The clutter isn't the problem. The clutter is often the messenger. It's trying to tell us something. It's telling us that we've reached capacity. And I think this is where so many women find themselves today. They're in what I lovingly call the messy middle of life. Maybe your kids are grown, but they still need you. Maybe your parents need more support than ever before. Maybe your career is more demanding. Maybe, like me, you've started your own business. Maybe menopause has thrown you a curveball. And maybe you're asking yourself questions you've never had time to ask before. Who am I now? What do I actually want? Why does everything feel so heavy? If any of that resonates, I created this program for you. So Lighten Up the Clutter-Free Mindset method discusses clutter. But we do so much more than that. We look at the habits, the stories, the expectations, and the beliefs that have kept you feeling stuck. Every week, we explore another piece of this puzzle. We'll celebrate your wins. We'll troubleshoot any places where you continue to get stuck. We'll remind one another that progress matters so much more than perfection. You'll be surrounded by women who understand exactly what it's like to be in this season of life. Because something powerful happens when you realize you're not the only one. Every month we come together for Declutter with me. It's one of my favorite parts of what I offer because we stop talking about decluttering and we actually do it. For an hour, we roll up our sleeves. We discuss clutter, what it looks like, what it feels like, and what kind of clutter we're going to work on that night. And then we set a timer for 30 minutes and we declutter for 30 minutes. And I know a lot of people out there are like, 30 minutes isn't a lot of time. It's not. But so much momentum can be created. So in that time, you pick one small project and we all make progress together. No pressure, no comparison, just action. One drawer, one shelf, one inbox, one decision at a time. Recently, I had the joy of leading my very first Lighten Up, Let It Go 30-day decluttering challenge. Women committed to just 10 minutes a day. Not because 10 minutes would magically transform their space, but because 10 minutes was enough to create momentum. Watching that community grow over the past month reminds me of something that I already knew. Women don't need more information. They need encouragement. They need accountability. They need someone to remind them that they don't have to do it perfectly. And most of all, they need to know that they don't have to do it all alone. That's exactly what this program is about. Not about becoming a minimalist, not about having a picture-perfect house, not impressing anyone on Instagram. It's about creating more room in your life, more room to breathe, more room to think, more room to enjoy your family, more room to say yes to the things that really matter, more room to say no to the things that don't. More room for joy, more room for peace, more room to simply exist. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you've been thinking, I know something needs to change, I just don't know where to begin, maybe you've begun over and over and over again, and you're tired of starting from scratch. I'd like to invite you to join us. The next Lighten Up Clutter-Free Mindset method starts soon. We'll spend 12 weeks together, one step at a time, creating lasting change that goes far beyond organizing your home. If you're wondering whether it's the right fit, I've included a link in the show notes where you can schedule a complimentary discovery call. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to be, and whether this program is the next right step for you. And if now isn't your time, that's okay too. Maybe your next step is joining us for a future Declutter with Me session. Maybe the next 30-day Lighten Up, Let It Go challenge. Or maybe your next step is simply choosing one small area today and giving yourself 10 minutes. Because here's what I hope you'll remember. You don't have to change your whole life this week. You don't have to declutter your entire life in 1 month. You don't have to have all the answers to begin. You just have to be willing to take that next small step. Because little by little, decision by decision, one drawer, one conversation, one boundary, one choice at a time, the weight begins to lift. And when that happens, you don't just end up with less clutter. You end up with more clarity, more confidence, more calm, and more freedom. I want to thank you for joining me today. And until next time, remember, you don't have to clear everything. You just have to lighten the load enough to make room for what matters most. Thank you for listening to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use just a little bit of lightness. If you're ready for deeper support, you can work with me one-on-one or join my Lighten Up Clutter-Free Mindset Group program. You can find all the details at my website, thoughtfullycoaching.com. Until next time, progress over perfection. Messy action is better than no action at all. So let's lighten up.